Hello, welcome to the Word Cafe Podcast. This podcast has been designed with curated content that centers on the power of words. Can we really do anything without speaking? Can we really do anything without the agency of words? Yes, that is what this podcast is all about. And I am your host, Amakri Isoboye, your neighborhood word trader. I believe in the power of words, for it is the unit of creation. I trade in words to profit my world. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good everything, wherever you are joining this conversation from on the planet of the earth. How are you doing? Beautiful. I'm doing super good. I am somewhat excited, particularly for the guest I have on the show today, and I don't want to spoil the fun, seeing her, and yes, it's a her, you just heard me now, and all that. I'm super excited. Awesome. You can see on the screen, Quintessential Medprenuer. This is a medical person who has more or less transitioned into that space of entrepreneurship, and she's made so much of herself. She's Amazon bestseller. What else? She's hold on. She's a host of a podcast. She has this institute she calls it EntreMD. She is a member of the Forbes Council. Who is this person I'm talking about? I know you're dying to see her, like I want to see her too. Okay, enough of the banter. Let me bring her on now. And there she is. Hi. Did I take you off?
I'm here now.
Okay. Dr. Una, how are you?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for having me on the show. We've been working on this for a while, so I'm glad we're making it happen.
Yes, I am super excited. When I was going through, in my head, going through today's activity, and I was like, what am I going to ask her based on where we're coming from, and all that. I don't want to bore my guests with that, but what am I going to ask her? And I said, no, let me allow her introduce herself before we, take that path and see where it leads us to. So who is Dr. Una?
Man, we're going to have a lot of slashes for this one. So, and I really want to tell it because, it's important. It's important. One of the things I strive to be is an example of what is possible. And so it will be a disservice to not talk about it. So I have been, I'm a wife. I've been married for 16 years. I have 4 children, 14, 13, 8, and 7. So I have the big 2 and the little 2.
Did you say four children?
4 children.
But you don't look it.
Yeah, but I have them. I have evidence. I have them.
Amazing. Go on.
So I have 4 of them. And I did go to the University of Nigeria in Nsukka. That's where I did my my medical training, and moved over to the United States and trained to be a pediatrician. So I'm a pediatrician. I've been a pediatrician now for 13 years. I'm a serial entrepreneur. So my first business was my private practice, started that, and then started EntreMD, which is a business we set up to help doctors learn how to build profitable businesses so they can live life and practice medicine on their terms. We have a marketing company. We have, real estate. So there are a number of businesses that we are involved in. When I say we, my husband and I. And then we also pastor a church. So we pastor Dominion City in Georgia here. And then, I also do a lot of speaking. I have a podcast that goes by the same name, the EntreMD Podcast. Actually, in all fairness, I have 3 podcasts. And then I have, the EntreMD Method book, which we released this year, which is a bestseller. And then, and then I'm part of Forbes Business Council, regularly contribute to Forbes. So there are a lot of things, but that's me. But I'm a human. I love people. That's kind of me.
Beautiful. Your name, as in Unachukwu, but I see in the US there a lot of your friends and what have you, clients, they call you Dr. Una. Now I was trying to understand, why are they calling her Dr. Una? Do you know why they call you that?
Well, so this is the deal. If you're Nigerian, Unachukwu is a very simple name, right? Because Chukwu is God and there's Una. That's it. It's a very simple name. But over here, it's very and I'm in the South, so Georgia is the southern part. So you see them; they really try really hard. But the K and the W and the C, they're having a hard time putting all this stuff together. And so they'll try. I've been called all kinds of things, and eventually I was like, you know what, just call me Dr. Una. It's fine.
But do you know what came to my mind? Which, come on, I'm not trying to be over myself now. The word Una, UNA, in this part of the world from where we are, you know what it stands for? In our pidgin English, that is.
I have never thought about that. Ever.
It's talking about us. So more or less, you represent a lot of us. So they are actually calling you Dr. Us, just like Dr. Strange or something. This lady is super. So we just call her Dr. Us. She speaks to each and every one of us in so many ways, So I said, I'm going to tell you this. This is the inspiration that came to me. So
well, I'm taking that.
Yeah.
It never crossed my mind. It has never. And I speak pidgin English fluently, okay? But it's never crossed my mind.
I know. So now, pediatry, what has it been like for you? Because you've been in this space for 13 years, you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What has it been like?
I mean, I've loved it. It's very funny, though. When I was in med school and people are like, so what do you want to do after med school? I'm like, I don't know, but I know I don't want to be a pediatrician, and things like that.
You don't want to be a pediatrician?
I didn't want to be a pediatrician because I was like, the kids, their parents, all that stuff. Who wants that? But then, what I really wanted to do was OBGYN. I just had this compassion for women.
For the sake of clarity, what does that mean? So that my audience will follow your thoughts.
Yeah, so like a women's doctor.
Okay.
Yeah, so the one who would deliver the babies and take care of fibroids and like all those kind of things. Yeah. And I think it's because I had such compassion for women when it came to women's health because of the vulnerability there, right? Like, a woman who's infertile or a woman who's pregnant, there's a lot of vulnerability. And I just felt like they needed support, and I felt like I could do that. But in the US, they work 24-hour calls forever. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I have 9 lives running at the same time. I cannot do that. And so when I came, I was like, okay, but where can I still find the mommies though? And I was like, well, if I go to pediatrics, I get the kids and the mommies. And so that's how I landed up in pediatrics. Ended up falling in love with it. Really loved taking care of the kids and, watching them go from really sick, quick diagnosis, much better. It was a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun for me. And for everyone who was my patient, they got 2 for the price of 1 because I could connect so deeply with the women because I was wired to do that. That's what I wanted to do. And so, they're like, Dr. Una, you're like our therapist, or you make us feel so good. That's why we keep coming back and things like that. They could feel the support. So, so I've enjoyed being a pediatrician. Yeah.
There's nothing like, doing what you love and you love what you do. It's like, it's easy, so to say, you don't see the difficulties, you see the possibilities because you love what you do and you just want to give solutions, answers to those challenges and questions. And I hear it from your voice. It's so beautiful. Now, what has a doctor who is a pediatrician, as in she specialized in that, got to do with business within the medical field? Tell me.
Well, so this is the deal, right? For me, entrepreneurship was not supposed to be, like, in my mind, it was not part of my path. It's not something I ever thought about. It's not something that crossed my mind. But after I did my first job, after my training in pediatrics, I remember my boss saying, okay, we're almost at the end of your first year. This has been great. Here's a 5-year contract. And I'm like, to put it in perspective, I had been married for 3 years. I had just finished the 3-year residency. So my idea of a very long time was 3 years, right? So I was like, I'm not doing a 5-year contract, and I needed to move. So he's like, start your own practice. I'm like, wait, what? Like, nobody finishes residency, works for 9 months and says, I want to start my practice. And in case you missed this really ginormous bump here, like, I'm pregnant. This is not the time to start a practice, you know? And so he's like, well, I mean, the thing is, everything you're going to need to do there, you're doing here. Right. And that's that goes back to the law of the extra mile, which is where, like, wherever you are, you want to have ownership of your job, because you never know. Right. It may not be your boss. It may be someone else. But either way, he's like, start your own practice. If you have questions, I'll help you start it. And then after that, I was just like, whatever, like, talk to yourself. And then, our pastor came visiting, and he was like, this is the time you should start looking into owning your own business. I'm like, what is going on? Like, I don't do stuff like that. But anyway, by the time two of them said it, I was like, okay. And I started, looking at other practices, what they were doing, and all of those things. I was like, okay. I will say ignorance is bliss, though, because I was like, okay, let's do this, because I didn't know any better. and so we started the practice, and oh my goodness, I did not realize that being a doctor, like, medical school just trains you to be a doctor. It does nothing for business training at all.
For business training.
Nothing at all. So I was like a deer caught in headlights. I would have escaped if I could. It's just I had signed all these contracts and signed a lease and all of these things. And so I started, scared as I was, I started learning business principles, learning to hire, learning to fire, learning to build company culture, learning to market, learning to sell, all of those things. I was scared all the time, like all the time. And when I finally learned that, wait a minute, this is not, because I was super shy. I was an introvert. I mean, you know me from when I was much younger. And so I was like, I can't go out there and talk to people, like, network, like, oh my goodness. But then I learned that all business skills are learnable. It's not a personality type. There's not somebody born with the entrepreneur gene. Like, they're just learnable. And so I started learning these things, and the business started working. And I was like, wait a minute. Here I am all this while. I thought that I had a handicap, and I did not have a handicap. What happened was I just didn't have skills. And I was like, how many doctors are out there failing in their private practices, failing in their businesses, not realizing that they're just a few skills away from making it work? So that's kind of what started that for me. And then in the healthcare space in the United States, there are a lot of changes that have been made where it became very obvious that if you don't have business skills, you are not going to thrive, period. Yeah. And so that's what led me to start EntreMD. Started doing events, started doing one-on-one coaching, then started a group program, then started the EntreMD Business School, which is 2.5 years now. It's crazy.
Beautiful.
And so that's what started that whole journey. And it's not just, doctors doing medical businesses. It really is doctors doing whatever business they want to do. Because I'm like, you followed the prescribed way up to this point. Now at this point, you get to choose what you want to do. So it's a lot of fun. It's so much fun.
You can say that again. But now, to the part of when your should I say your boss said one or two things, and you were like, nah, it's not for me. And you went to church, and your boss's boss, if you understand what I mean by that, now spoke to you. And it's like, hello, this is what I created you for. And it's like, come on, what's happening? Why is everybody, like we say in Nigeria, hitting the basketballs and all that? What is this? What's happening? And somehow you accepted it. How did your husband, because you're in this with him, how did he take it, and what's the support?
So my husband he's an entrepreneur at heart, and he's an introvert, but he's not as shy. He's like a bulldozer. Let's knock things down, right? And so he was all for it. I was the person who was like, I'm not about that life. Like, everybody should leave me alone. So he was all for it. So he's been very, very supportive, like, the entire time. And people ask me a lot about this as far as their spouses. But one of the things that I've done, and which I tell people, is a lot of times we talk a lot, right? I want to do this. I want to do that. The next week, I want to do this other thing. The next week, I want to do that other thing. And I'm like, talk less and do more. Right. And do more. Yeah. Like, if you're like, this is what I did, or, I've always been so scared. And whatever, I said yes to that speaking gig, and I told them how much to pay me, and I got it. It's easier to get behind that than talk that changes every 2 weeks. right? Especially dreamer talk, like, oh, I could do this, and next week I'll do this. Maybe I should do that, because all you're doing is you're showcasing your uncertainty. And I'm not saying you won't be uncertain. There is some uncertainty, but talk less and do more, right? Like, do something, kill something and drag it in and say, look what I did. It makes it easier for someone to get behind you on that.
Exactly. And doing something would show, would I say, the strength you really have in the weakness that you thought you had. Because, whoa, I didn't know I could write for this long. I didn't know I could hold a single thought for this long. And somehow, like a tendon, you're flexing it every day and the muscles are building up there. That's what I hear you say. Now, let's talk about your Forbes Council journey. When I saw your name on that list, I was like, this lady keeps just pushing the boundaries and all that. How did it come? Tell me, how did it come?
Yeah, so the Forbes Council is kind of like invite only private membership within the Forbes community, and it's based on revenue generated, right? You have to cross a certain ceiling in your business for you to be invited for it. So I had a number of friends who were in it. I got an invitation to apply for it, and I applied for it, and voila, they were like, yeah, you're welcome. And I'm like, this is very interesting. Like, I've always thought about Forbes, but I never thought about my name in the same sentence. But this is fascinating. And there are multiple opportunities, like, to contribute to articles and things like that, which is a very fascinating world. There are people who are on the council but will never write. And I was like, yeah, we're gonna do that. So I take time to write, every other month or things like that. And it's been interesting. It's a fascinating community too.
Beautiful. Now, for your EntreMD program, and I've seen a couple of them, here and there, people coming around and all that. What has it been like for people who, would I say, are where you've been, and it's like courageously now they are moving up where you are? Tell us, what has it been like?
Like the people in the school? The people in the EntreMD Business School?
In the school, yes.
Oh my goodness, yes, let me tell you.
School.
That when I think about the EntreMD Business School, I think about, what would potentially be one of the, there are going to be many things like that, but one of the greatest things that I'll do with my life, like my legacy, because, physicians don't necessarily get a business education, and to put myself in a position where we've created this thing where people can get a business education. It's phenomenal. So I've had people come in and they're like, I want to start a private practice, but I'm not sure if I can. I'm like, of course you can. Like, you could learn, you could learn to intubate babies. You could learn to do surgery. You can figure this out. And to watch them after a year, and they've launched the practice, and they've had like 2,400 patients, and they're really pushing towards their first million. It is an insane thing to watch. It is so insane. So we've had people do that. We have people like, I've wanted to launch a podcast for the last 2 years. I'm like, we're doing it this month, and they launched their podcast, and now they're getting speaking, paid speaking opportunities from it and things like that. To watch people who, and I don't advocate they all quit their jobs. Like, a number of them are what we'll call entrepreneurs. So they're working jobs, but they show up as entrepreneurs. And so I have people who, they're full-time employees, but they've learned to own their brand. They've learned to own their voice. They've learned to decide what mark they want to make in the world. They understand the language of business. So now they're negotiating for better pay. They're negotiating for 4-day work weeks. They're negotiating to get a scribe so they don't have to do their notes by themselves anymore. And when the CEOs and CMOs and things are having, so the executives are having high-level conversations, they're invited into those rooms, right? Because they're entrepreneurs, So seeing that, or, people who are like, I want to be a coach. That's what I want to do. I don't really want to be in the exam room anymore, and see them build that and build it out. It's a profitable business. And the funny thing is, we've had things like that. We've had people come in like, I want to hit my first million, and they do it. We have people cross to multiple 7-figure. Like, we have the whole from 0 to 7 million in revenue. But it's so fascinating that, because business is a means to an end. Business is not the end, right? It's a tool to help you go somewhere. And so then to watch people then say, I love everything that's happened in my business because of the business school. But the best thing that happened to me because I'm in this school is my marriage is better. Right?
Whoa,
Is my marriage
good.
is better.
Right.
Or I had the freedom now, and now I'm pregnant with twins. I've been trying. Like, this is so crazy. Or I found myself. Like, I've been lost all these years, and I found myself. It's so crazy. And for everyone listening, it's kind of like what has been on your heart to do, embrace it, because you don't truly know what will happen on the other side. You have no idea, but it's good.
No idea.
It's really
beautiful.
Good. Yeah.
Now, listening to you now is like the business school is not just addressing business issues alone. It is a wholesome school. It's addressing other issues, and it's like this has improved automatically. The other follows. So there's this resonance, so to say. Okay, I'm better in this now, and the energy flows into the other path. That is what I hear you say, and it is amazing. And from where I stand, what I see there is somebody who has a good understanding of the spiritual essence behind business. Why am I doing this? It is not just because of the money, but looking at the value that I am creating and bringing into people's lives. That's what I hear you say, and this is so beautiful. Now, let me ask, this program, do we have any opportunity for those of us in Nigeria, in Africa? Because I don't know if it's virtual or on site. Tell us. Let's see.
No, it's not on site. It's virtual. Actually, I think we've had 9 countries so far in the school. It's not on site. It's virtual. It's year long. And so actually, yeah, so we have, what do we have? Hong Kong, we have Paris, we have UK, we have Australia, we have Canada, we have a number of countries. We don't have Nigeria yet, I don't think, but yeah, soon.
Why?
Very soon.
Why
because I haven't been on your
Nigeria?
podcast. Because I haven't been on your podcast yet.
Now you're here. So
now I'm on your podcast. So
so now let's sell that product. Now go ahead, tell my audience within this space, within Africa and Nigeria, what they stand to benefit from this EntreMD program. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the EntreMD Business School it really is a school like no other. We say it's the number one business school for physicians who want to build 6- and 7-figure businesses, and really it is for it really is for the person who is mission driven. Like, I want to create value. I want to create change in the world, but I want to build a business system around it so that I have the freedom to do it the way I want to do it, right? Because no margin, no mission. That's really the way it works. And so if that is something that you've been thinking about, but you're like, I can't find my way, to the US to do an MBA, or I can't find my way to this, this is the place for you. And we're not focused on you getting an additional piece of paper. We're not focused on you learning the concepts. We are focused on you implementing the concepts you learn. That's what we're about. So we're about results, not pieces of paper. We have enough of those as physicians, right? It's about you getting the results. And so it is a school. It's a year-long program. We have about 140 doctors in it at this point. So you have access to the most unbelievable community. We had an in-person event. In that in-person event, 14% of the doctors there were above the 7-figure mark. If you can imagine that.
Whoa.
14%. And so it is the most unbelievable community. You have the connections to everybody you need in one room. So if it's something you've been thinking about, then it's something you want to take a look at. It is application only, but it's entremd.com/business. It's the school for you. We have a good number of Nigerians, but we don't have Nigerians in Nigeria yet.
In Nigeria, okay. So is it specifically for medical doctors or those within the medical field?
Specifically for doctors.
Specifically for doctors, okay. So now I have a segregation I have to deal with now. There's a segregation there now. Don't mind me. I was only joking.
No,
That's
but
what your
well,
call is.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes, that is 100%
Yeah,
what I'm called to. I'm very clear on it. However,
exactly.
there
Yeah.
are a lot of people in the healthcare space who are part of the
Mm,
community who binge on the EntreMD podcast. And the EntreMD
mm,
podcast is not a fluffy podcast. It's not an
mm.
ad. You know, there's some podcasts that are ads, like the
Yeah.
whole thing. It
Yeah.
really is where I lay out my best work. Like you would see, 7 things you need to
Mm,
change on your way to your next million, how to sell
mm,
confidently, how to fall in love
mm,
with your offer, how to convert
mm.
your payroll from an expense to an investment, how to, like, all of those
Beautiful.
things. So the mindsets,
Yeah.
the actions, the marketing, is all there. And the
Mm,
episodes are between 15 and 30 minutes. So it's something that is
mm.
really easy to follow. And so
Yeah.
even if you're not a physician, there's a lot to benefit from that.
Beautiful.
So the EntreMD podcast is a perfect place to start.
So how do you unwind? How do you unwind with all of this busy schedule, tight here and there? How do you unwind? How do you relax to refuel?
Well, so there are 2 things I do a lot of. One of is I take a lot of walks. I take a lot of walks because for me, it is beyond
Okay.
refreshing. Like if I'm in nature, I'm happy. And so I take walks and I put my headphones
Mm.
in so nobody feels the need to talk to me because they think I'm listening to something. It's very relaxing for me. So
Yeah.
sometimes I'll do an hour on a Friday,
Mhm.
where I work a little less. I would even do 2 hours. I'm just outside, living my best life. The second, well, I'll give you 3 things. The second thing is I periodically would take time to go to the beach. Again, I think relaxation is about self-awareness. And I'm aware that being in nature like adds years to my life, right? And so if I'm by the beach, I don't swim. Don't tell anybody,
Can say
except the
that
people who are
big.
listening. Okay, I don't swim, but I just want to be by the water. I just want to be
Yeah.
by the water, hear
Yeah.
the waves, all of that. That right there, I mean, it's just like stress washing off of me. It's the most unbelievable thing. And the third thing is I do recognize we live in a world where there are a lot of disappointments, there are a lot of challenges, there are a lot of setbacks, there's a lot of stress. So I really do spend a lot of time with God. I just sit there and just pray. And I'm just like, because I refuse to bear the weight of the responsibility of my life. Like I'm going to do what I need to do. And the rest of it, that's God's job description. I'm like, I'm not doing that.
I love that.
I can't.
I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. I love that. You know, the last thing you said is so refreshing, knowing that it is not my duty to take care of myself. It is his responsibility to take care of me. So what do? I just relax there, and refresh myself in his presence or in him, so to say, and get that inspiration and all that. It is so refreshing what you just said now. And a lot of us don't actually appreciate that. We want to do everything. We think we're here to take care of ourselves, forgetting that we're here
but it's hard
for him to take care of us. Yeah.
If I'll say this because it's a very common, like the Psalm 23 is a very common psalm, right? Like the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want.
Shepherd.
And I used to read that meaning that if the Lord is my shepherd, then I shall not want. I'm like, oh Lord, be my shepherd, right? Unconsciously, but this is the way the narrative is playing in my mind. And then one day I felt like God was saying to my heart, he was like, you're a little confused. I am always the shepherd. Like Jesus showed up, he said, I'm the good shepherd, right?
Shepherd.
And so I'm the shepherd. The variable in this equation is not me, it's you. Are you going to take the disposition of the sheep? If you take the disposition of the sheep, I am guaranteed to be the shepherd and you shall not want. Yeah, it's not me, it's you.
Preach, preacher.
So I'm like,
Amen.
okay, Lord, I'm the sheep. So my job is to be as sheep-like as possible so he can take care of stuff.
Amazing. Beautiful. I mean, what you just said now, it is so refreshing. Be a sheep. You just have to be a sheep. We'll say it in our local parlance, where you say sheep is akin to somebody who is ignorant, or as we say it, mumu, and all that. But actually, in this sense, you are not a mumu. For my international audience, that simply means ignoramus, or somebody who is ignorant, and all that. You're not knowledgeable. But in this case, you are the sheep, and there is a shepherd. So refreshing. Guys, we've been discussing with Dr. Nneka Unachukwu, popularly known as Dr. Una. I describe her as the quintessential medpreneur. Yes, she is. I don't want to go there, but we've come a long way. Yes, guys, we have come a long way. And seeing her here, I can tell you, looking back, I see a transformation on every level. She's not this as a then, as in boisterous. You always see her very calm. She doesn't want to be noticed in the crowd. Just let me be and all that. But now I see somebody who is like, I want to leave, and I am leaving, taking all the boundaries off me. I am super excited for you. Now, as a mother, you have 4 children, correct?
Yes.
How many boys, how many girls?
I have 1 boy, the second is a boy, and the other 3 are girls.
So how do you manage all of this with them? How do you manage all of this?
Well, okay, so now when someone looks at my life, right, it's like, oh my goodness, she's so busy. And granted, I do quite a bit, but I have learned that the only way to continue to go up is to let go of things, right? The only way to go up is to let go. And so
Take that again. The only way
to go up is to let go.
How do I let go?
Yeah, well, you have to let go of things. You have to bring a team on to take care of things. There's no way, right? And so I have a personal team, and so I have people who help with stuff at home, help me with the kids, help me cooking, cleaning, all of those kind of things, laundry, all of that. I have a team in each of my businesses, and I don't just delegate tasks I delegate the thinking, right? I delegate the planning, so I have teams that do a lot of things, so which gives me the bandwidth to still do what I need to do with my family. Now, I will tell you, in the beginning as an entrepreneur, I did not understand this concept. And my kids were much younger, and I had to put in sweat equity, right? Because it takes money to pay a team, right? I had to put in sweat equity. And so I put that in, and I was gone a lot when they were younger, but I did it with the understanding that I'm doing this now so that, because a time is coming when I'll have a lot more time than anybody would have to be with my kids and invest in my kids. And so I have a lot of teams now. That's just to start with. But on the other hand, I'm very clear that in the order of priority, my family comes before my business. And I'm not willing to help make the world better and then lose my children or my marriage or whatever. I have no interest whatsoever in that. And so because you asked about my kids, I'll tell you what I did with them. So the younger 2 go to school, and I get to take them to school every day, right? Making up for lost time. So I take them to school, I bring them back. The older 2, I did an experiment. Again, don't tell anybody, okay? Okay, so I did I did an experiment. And this was what I thought. When I think about, let's take basketball. When I think about the basketball greats, someone like Stephen Curry. Someone like Stephen Curry grew up on the courts. His dad was a basketball player. He grew up on the courts. He learned about these things early. And now he's one of the greatest of all time. And many of them are like that. And I'm like, well, I have developed myself so much over the years, and I want my kids to grow up on the courts, right? I put that in quotations. I want them to grow up on the courts. I want them to, for everything I've done, I want it to be a stepping stone from them. Like, for instance, it took me forever to figure out entrepreneurship and, for me to own my voice and for me to be comfortable speaking in public and networking and all of that kind of stuff. I was like, there's no reason why my kids should go through that, right? Like, I've taken one for the team. I've done one. And so I was like, when it comes to faith, I have a really strong faith. They should not be starting from ground zero. When it comes to leadership, business, character development, like, I have these things down to a science. I was like, I need to give them, I'm not going to teach them basketball, but I can gift this to them and they can build everything on top of that. So I homeschool them. I pull them out of school. I put them in an online school. So the online school takes care of the academics. And then I lead in on leadership, business, character development, and faith. And I teach them on those. So they both have businesses. They both lead small groups. They like all of these things. They're doing all of that.
How old are they?
14 and 13.
They lead a business group.
No, they have businesses and they lead small groups. They have their own little small groups and stuff that they lead. Put that on purpose so they can practice.
Can they come and spend some time with me? With my kids?
We can arrange that just
Beautiful.
for you.
Beautiful.
So that's my experiment. But I was like, I want to give them a leg up. I don't want them to start from where I started from. I'm like, I recognize the value in the transformation I've experienced, and then I want them to experience that as well. So beautiful. Yeah, that's where we are with that.
This is real intention, as in you are intentional about it. You like, this is what I want. Yes, a little bit, maybe when you started, you had some like fear here and there or doubt here and there, but somehow you reinforced your faith in what you want. And somehow, like going back to what you said earlier about the relationship between the sheep and the shepherd, and it's like, I depend on you for this. And somehow, like, voila, this is happening. And it's amazing. It's amazing. And I think it's something we should reproduce, not necessarily copy for copy, but like, what can we learn from what Dr. Una has said here about, letting the children come on the courts? Let them come on the courts with you. Not necessarily you giving them commands here and there, but they're watching and seeing what mommy, daddy, this is how they handle it. So more or less, there's this, what I say, modeling. It comes telepathically. Like, you just understand that, okay, this is how to handle this. Okay, this is how to handle this. I think it's what we need. It is what we need. All right. I know you're very busy. Thank you for this time. But I'm going to ask you this question before I let you go. COVID brought a lot of changes in the world, and a lot of us could not cope, and somehow we're grappling and all that. How did you navigate this change? The VUCA, as we call it, the VUCA change. How did you navigate it?
So the thing with COVID is, here it was pretty intense. But I'll tell you, authentically how we handled that. The first thing is, I made a decision that I was going to thrive no matter what. How? I don't know. But I started with the decision. I was like, and I did that. And, at this time, I was already leading people, entrepreneurs and all of that. I'm like, listen, guys, don't say what they're saying. Don't panic like they're panicking. We're going to thrive one way or another. This is not the first time that something bad has hit the earth. We'll figure it out and we'll keep it moving. And so that was the first thing. The first thing is I made a decision that I was going to thrive. And, now in the US, we're in the middle of a recession, hyperinflation, all of that. And the same thing. I came out, I was like, guys, it starts from a decision to thrive. So that was the first thing. The second thing was really being flexible, right? This is the way we've always done that. Why? Why would you say that? This is the way. I'm waiting for things to go back to the way they used to be. They're never going back. Stop it. Like, you know what I mean? And so that ability to stay flexible and find out what is required in this time so I can do what is required in the time. So for instance, in private practice, so many private practices shut down, right? But we recognize people are not going to come in, but they'll do virtual visits and all of these things. And we just pivoted, like real nice, real quick, real quietly, just pivot and do that. And that's just one example. Same thing with Pastor Church is the same thing. We've switched over to really heavy on the online piece and, communicating with our people by phone and doing all these things. We never really shut down, like I said, my husband's like a bulldozer. We bulldoze through that. But at the same time, we paid attention to what was needed in the time, what was required of us. And then we did that. So we actually worked harder in the pandemic than before that. And so that was the second thing that we did. The third thing, now, I know that not every one of your listeners is a person of faith, but this is my experience, right? So this is what we're talking about. I'm not trying to throw anything on anybody, but Isaiah 60 says something. It says, "Arise and shine, for your light has come." There's darkness over the earth. There's gross darkness over the people, but my glory is risen over you. And if there was ever a time that scripture was real, it was during the pandemic, right? There was darkness over all the people. There's darkness over the entire earth. And in that, he's still saying, but he's not saying, so that's what happened. He says, but because I remember I started adjusting my goals in 2020. Like, there's a pandemic and all of that. And so God was like, so my word is only true in the absence of a pandemic? I was like, no, sir. Where you put it that way, no, sir. And he's like, you leave your goals the way they are. You ask me how to pull it off, And so I recognize that I can arise, I can shine, but the source of my exemption is him. So the way to escape is to go deeper in him, right? You see, so then I went even deeper, so much deeper in my walk with him. In fact, that was the period that we started a daily, like 6 a.m. prayer meeting, really, which has gone on since then. We're about to hit day 1,000, if you can believe it.
Beautiful.
Because I'm like, the deeper I go in him, the higher I can climb. The deeper I go in him, the more I'll be exempt from what's going on. And so that's really what we did. But to be honest with you, the pandemic year was a rough year for the world. It was a rough year, period. But when we look back at it, we actually did much better in the pandemic year than the year before that. And the opportunities for growth and transformation and all of that were so much more. So it's one of those things you're like, I don't want that to happen again, but I came out better for it. I came out so much better for it.
Amazing. You go deeper in him and you go higher in life. I mean, I got that. So it's not a question of what the economy is saying. It's not a question of what the world and all that. But listen, his word is true. His word is true. And I am so glad having you on the show today to share this with my audience. People, you will agree with me, it has been an amazing time with Dr. Una. I mean, I am super grateful. Before I let you go, what is that thing you always release to your whoever is listening to you to take away? I remember that I met somebody like Dr. Una.
Yeah, it would be this. We have one life. We are burning daylight, and we're all made for greatness. It doesn't matter where you're starting from. It doesn't matter what your past is like. It doesn't matter what family you come from. It doesn't matter. We are all made for greatness. And if you lean into the process of becoming that, if you pay the price for it, you'll stumble upon it. And it's beautiful. So don't hold back. Don't save your energy. Don't save, just go out there and do it all. One of the things that I think a lot about, Amakri, is my 90th birthday party. I think about my 90th birthday party a lot. I almost was like, I need to get someone to draw the 90-year version, make her cute, but 90th version, 90-year version of me.
So you're projected already.
Yeah, but I attend that party often, and I'm like, what do I want them to say about me? What do I want to have accomplished? What legacy do I want to have left? Yeah. I think about it, and then I come back here and say, knowing that, what should I be doing today? Knowing that, what bold steps should I be taking now? Knowing that, what fear should I dare and do it anyway? Because I want to get there and be her, right? I want to show up before God, and I'm like, so Lord, what was the game plan? What did you really want me to do? And then when I read that book, it's like reading my life because I did it. And so don't get so encumbered by the challenges and all those things. They will always be there. Like, you see me smiling, it's not because there are no challenges. They're big challenges, but they will always be there. They don't go away. So they're distraction. What you want to be laser focused on is, I want to become everything I can be. When I die, I want to die empty. Like, the only thing the earth is getting back is my dead body. None of my gifts, none of my talents, none of the dreams, none of the books I should have written, none of the songs I should have been sung, none of that. Like all of that, I squeezed it all out. You should plan to die empty. So today's a gift. Don't play with it. Don't be distracted by challenges. Don't be distracted by what people are saying about you or not saying about. Don't be distracted by eyes on the prize. Just become everything you can be. That's what it's all about. That's really all what it's about.
Guys, eyes on the prize. Today is a gift. Don't get distracted. The problems are always there. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Dr. Una, for this time.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so good.
This is so good. This is so good. I mean, I know that feeling when I leave here now and tell my wife, do you know I had on the show today, and give her the background and all that. She was just like, it's like this period you've been catching up with everybody, so to say, from that time. Let me not expose it. That time. And
you might as well. Google is a thing. Yeah, you might as well.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Guys, you've heard it. And this is how we live our lives within this space, the Word Cafe. We come in here to lean on one another's experience to forge, like we always say, a positive path. And honestly, you will agree with me, it has been an amazing time with Dr. Una. Well, till I come your way again. Bye for now. Dr. Una, what do you have to say?
Man, I love your crew. I love your crew. You should, if you haven't already, you should subscribe to this podcast, and you should listen every single time it comes out. And you should share it with somebody else, because, I mean, all it takes is somebody hearing one thing to ignite them, to set them on fire for the rest of their lives, and they'll thank you for it. So if he's going to do the hard work and produce it, then you want to do your part, pay it forward by sharing it with someone else. It's just as simple as boom, share it. That's it.
Thank you. Guys, you heard it. Share it forward. Bye for now. Awesome time it has been with you on the Word Cafe podcast today. Thank you for being there. You can catch me up on my social media handles, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, all at Amakri Isoboye. Also, you can get copies of my books, A Cocktail of Words, The Color of Words, and my HR notebook on Amazon and on Robin Heights online bookstores. You can also subscribe to my YouTube page at the same address. Yes, till we see you again. Bye for now.